Hi everybody, welcome to Cap at Home. I'm Miss Rachel and today we're going to be making a cardboard spirograph. And I'm about to show you exactly what you'll need to make it and then how to make it and how to use it. So let's just switch this camera around and look at our materials. So you're going to need a few things, including some cardboard and some paper to draw your designs on. You'll also need a marker to help you create the spirograph, some toothpicks, pens, pencils. Very sharpened color pencils would work for this, but ballpoint pens work best. You'll need a ruler. You'll also need some thin cardboard. This is just a tea box from the kitchen. You'll also need an eraser and a push pin, some scissors, some Elmer's school glue. If you don't want to use school glue, then you can use a hot glue gun. That's what I'm going to use to show you how to do this. But I think that is about it. So once you have those supplies gathered, you can make sure you join me. And I'm going to set this up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So step one, we're going to use our rulers to make a circle. If you want to draw a circle and you have something you can trace, like a small little candle or a plate or something, you can do that. But with your cardboard, you want to make sure you have two pieces that are about the same size, and they don't need to be really large. They just need to be maybe the size of the paper that you plan to work on, because this cardboard is going to become the outer tool, and you need to place that on the paper to use it. So it doesn't need to be huge. It can be a smaller piece of cardboard. So hopefully you have your cardboard with you and you've cut it into two identical sizes. And once you do that, you're going to draw a circle on this one. So like I said, you can use something to trace to draw a circle, or you can use my ruler method if you don't want to wash dishes because you use them in your art project. The first thing you're going to do is make a dot close to the center of the cardboard. And then you're going to use your ruler and line up the end of it with the center of the dot that you drew. And then just make a estimate of how large you want your circle. I'm not doing anything super precise. I'm going to decide that I want my circle to be 2 inches in radius. So I'm going to line it up the end of my ruler and then make a mark at the 2-inch mark. So hopefully you can see that. And then I'm going to move my ruler and keep the 0 point in the center with my dot and make another line at 2 inches. And then move it again, make another mark at 2 inches, and do that all the way around until I get a circle. So, I'm going to make a bunch of marks. And you can move your cardboard and your ruler along with you to make it easy to draw this. And your circle doesn't need to be perfect. We just want a circular shape. I wouldn't suggest freehanding it though. Definitely trace something or use this ruler method. Or if you're super fancy and you have a compass, you can use that. Okay, so I have a circle that I've drawn on here using my ruler method, and now I'm pretty much done with the ruler, so I'll set this out of the way. And now you're going to use your scissors to cut this circle out. Now I want you to be very careful when you're using scissors to cut through cardboard, because it can be really difficult. So if you need a parent to help you, ask for help. Don't stab yourself doing this. So I'm just going to kind of twist my scissors and lightly press, and I'll make my way through that cardboard. And then I'm twisting them to create a hole, and then I can go in there and cut my circle out. And like I said, it takes a little bit of muscle. So take your time. Make sure your hands are away from your scissors while you're doing this. And I would say cut a rough circle first. that's inside of your marks. Don't try to cut your circle out perfectly on the first go. Cut a rough circle so that you have space for your scissors to get in there, and then you can move around easily and cut your circle out the second time. So I'm going to cut my rough circle first. And then I have my little trash can over here where I'll throw my scraps away as I go so I don't have a huge mess at the end. And now it's going to be a lot easier to get in there and cut a nice looking circle. Because your circle doesn't need to be perfect, but it should be kind of nice. So, and this is super loud and it takes some time. So like I said, if you need help, ask for it. Okay. I'm going to cut this out. And your circle can be whatever size you want. It doesn't have to be as small as mine. It can be bigger if you have larger cardboard. So there we go. Alright, so I'm going to throw this away because I don't need it. Put my scissors to the side. And now I have one circle cut out. So you need 2 of these pieces. So you can lay this piece on top of the other identical piece of cardboard that you have. And then you can just use your marker to trace your circle on the inside. Make sure you can see that line. And you can cut a second circle out of your second piece of cardboard. So when you cut this piece, you want to make sure you're cutting right outside of your line because you traced the inside of this. So your tracing is technically a little bit smaller, so you want to cut on the outside of this line to make sure that your circles are about the same size. But I have already done my cutting ahead of time. Bam! I have a huge one here. I'm using this as scrap paper right now to protect my surface. So if you are using a surface that you can't really get messed up, you might want to have some scrap paper down, or you can even use plastic bags like this to work on top of. That makes a nice little throwaway cleanup area kind of thing. So now I'm going to use my glue to glue these together to reinforce each other, because what we're making is a tool, and since we're going to have to use it over and over again, we want to make sure this is sturdy, and right now it's not. So I'm going to grab my hot glue, bring it over to my work area, slide this other stuff out of the way, and I have some extra glue sticks close by in case I need them. And I'm just going to open this up, add some glue, and I want to make sure it's around the circle area because that's the part that's going to get the most wear and tear. So you really want to make sure your circle is secure. And I'm going to add my hot glue. And like I said, if you don't have hot glue, you can use Elmer's glue. You'll just have to keep in mind that there will be a drying time. So it won't be as fast as what I'm going to do here on this live video. So, but sometimes you don't need to go fast, so if you have your Elmer's glue, use that. And it may also be helpful to put something heavy on top of these while they're drying with the Elmer's glue. So, okay. I would like some more glue on there, but with the hot glue, you need to work pretty quickly. Okay, cool, cool. Set that down on my paper. And you want to make sure your circle edges are lined up. I'm not worried about these outside edges not lining up. I want the circle in the middle to be lined up. So, kind of press it down and line it up as good as you can, because your circles are not going to be exactly the same. But as long as you took your time to make them pretty close, this step will go smoothly. Right? That little hot glue off my fingers. So now I have my reinforced big circle tool. And the next step is to add this corrugated bumpy part here, because that helps our little cogs move around and helps us create our design. So I'm going to slide this to the side really quickly. And you're going to need a little more cardboard. Hopefully you have some. And you're just going to need a strip because we only need a 1/2 inch strip to go inside of here. So you're going to need a strip of cardboard, and you can cut it down to a 1/2 inch. So I lied. I'm going to use my ruler again. And I'm going to show you how I measure to cut out the strips. I've done this in a couple other videos, so some people may know what I'm about to do. I'm just going to measure from this top edge to a 1/2 inch, and then from a 1/2 inch, another 1/2 inch down, and then another 1/2 inch, and make marks on both sides so I can connect them, draw a straight line, and use my scissors to cut out the the strip. So let's do that. Making a mark at a 1/2 inch plus one more 1/2 inch is 1 inch, 1 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I'm going to come down here and do the same thing. Make my mark so I can line them up and draw a straight line. And I'm just using my pen here because it's easier for me. You can use whatever you want because the marks on here are not going to be seen on your final tool. And if they are, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just lining up my ruler and connecting those dots or marks that I made and making straight lines. So your lines don't need to be perfectly straight, but I know it can be frustrating to start cutting and then you have a really wide side and you get down and you have a small side. So I just wanted to show you this so you know everything you need to know to create this project. Okay, so I'm going to slide that ruler off to the side again, put my pen down, and I'm just going to use the lines that I drew to cut my cardboard strips. And you know what? I'm going to cut this off, but I forgot to do something because it might be easier to do this first. So I'm going to cut those off because those are kind of trash. Ooh. So since I have my lines on this side, I'm going to flip this over, and to get the bumpy part out of our cardboard, to get this, we just need to peel off one side of the cardboard. So, and you know what? I'm about to reveal that. So you're just going to take a little edge and peel it that way. And you see how mine isn't coming all the way out? I can just use my toothpick to kind of get under that and just peel it up. And you'll want to be careful because you can break your toothpick like I just did. So you should have some extras laying around and throw the one that you broke away. Or you can use a skewer or shish kebab stick because that's a little heavier and it can really get in there. So one thing that you'll want to notice when you're cutting your strips is which way the corrugated edge is going, because we need ours to be this way in here. If I was to cut this out the way that I did right here, it wouldn't work. So this is trash, but I have something already prepared. So I showed you how to peel off the outer piece to reveal that. So now I can use this for my to glue to the inside of my circle, because doing all that kind of takes some time. So have a bunch of strips ready to go so we can keep moving along. So make sure your corrugated edge is lined up the right way when you're cutting your strips. So you might want to do like a little test. Alright, so now I'm going to add hot glue to the back of this, to the smooth side, so that I can glue it into this big circle, and so that the corrugated side is in the middle like this. Alright, I'm going to stand up here so I can use the glue. Easier for me to work standing up. And I like to cut extra strips just in case, because I didn't measure exactly how much I needed. So I'm going to just have these extra strips on hand. So if it's too short, I can go ahead and use my extra strip. If it's too long, I'll just cut one down. So you want to make sure you have enough cardboard to do all of these steps. And like I said, you can do this with Elmer's glue. You don't have to have hot glue, but the hot glue has really helped with this step. So if you have access to a hot glue gun, or if somebody will help you use one, then I would definitely suggest it for these next steps. So I'm going to take my strip and line it up with the inside of this circle and press it into place as much as possible. Hopefully I didn't take too long and my hot glue isn't all dried up on me. And it's really helpful to have something under your work area because this stuff gets all over the place. So you don't want to have to peel it up off the table. Just have something under your work area so you can just toss that and make your cleanup easier. Okay. There we go. That's in place. And I haven't been able to I wasn't able to go all the way around, so I'm going to use my extra strip in here. Kind of cut it down. And make sure you're saving your strips because you need them to create the cogs that we're going to make a little bit later. So don't throw your strips away until you know that you're done creating all of the pieces you want to create for this Spirograph. Use my hot glue again. And be very careful with this hot glue. I think I'm using it a little recklessly, but that's because I kind of don't have a lot of feeling in my fingers. So make sure you are being careful. Let's see, I'm going to add another stick so I can get this last little piece on here. And this part might be easier to do if you have a friend or a family member that will help you, because one of you can add the glue and another one can kind of push this into place. So there's opportunities to collaborate with people on this project. I'm going to gather my little glue strings and put them in the trash. Okay, so now I have my outer tool. And I really don't know the name of this outer part, but it is important. You do need this. So go ahead and finish up yours. And then I'm going to set mine to the side so we can make our little cogs that go on the inside. This is a perfect time to grab your thin cardboard. Like I said, mine is a tea box, like just some drinking tea. And I already have some circles traced out on this one. And I wanted to make sure I mention this to you before you make the cogs. If you have, let's use this one. If you make a cog that is a large size, when you use it inside of this tool, it's going to make a small circle. You're not going to get a big circle with the big cog. You'll get a big circle with the smaller cog. So this, when I use it, is going to make a really big circle closer to the size of this outside tool. When I use the bigger cog, it's going to make a smaller circle because this dot is closer to the inside of this tool. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want your designs to be big, then you'll want to make some small cogs. If you want your designs to be small, then you make some big cogs. So, and all of your cogs don't need to be circular. I made this wonky one and I'll show you how it works at the end of this video. So even though I'm showing you how to do the circular ones, you can try other shapes like triangles or squares or something even funkier than that if you want. So I'm going to use my thin cardboard and I'm going to use something to make a circle. This is where, like, I have this little candle I can use. If you have just a cup, or I also have like this applesauce cup, you can use those kinds of things. Or you can even do the circle method that I showed you with the ruler. That will work for this too. But I'm going to make this really easy on myself. Use my pen and draw a circle. And I don't know if you can see my work area, so get that away. Just drawing a circle onto my thin cardboard. And you want to make sure that this cardboard is kind of sturdy, like a cereal box will work, or something like that. It does need to be kind of sturdy because it will get a little wear and tear. Set that off to the side. So now I have my circle. It's not drawn perfectly, but I'm not worried about that at all because I'm cutting it out. And I'm going to cut this circle from this larger piece of cardboard. Once I cut it out kind of rough, it's going to be easier to cut it down and follow the lines. So that's a little quick tip. If you have something that's within a larger sheet of paper or cardboard, if you cut it out of that paper before you try to do your perfect cut, it will be a lot easier to cut. Okay. And since this is going to be a tool that I use, it's not a final piece of art, I'm not concerned that there's writing on here or anything on the back because nobody's going to see this. They're going to see the artwork that I make with this. So since I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the trash. Even though you could get some smaller cogs out of there if you want. So if you're going to make smaller pieces, because I would definitely suggest making more than one so you can get more designs, you can go ahead and make your smaller circles and then throw the scraps in the trash. Alright, so I have my circle and now I need these little strips again. So you should have some more corrugated cardboard strips, and you're going to glue this to the outside edge of this circle. This is another time when it will be really helpful to have someone help you, because someone can glue while the other person kind of attaches it to the actual cog. So you can watch me struggle through this. Don't laugh at me too hard, okay? You may want to place or kind of measure how much you'll need, how much cardboard you'll need beforehand by wrapping it around and then trimming it down, because that will make the whole process of attaching the strip a little bit easier. So now I'm going to add my hot glue to the strip. If my hot glue gun would act right. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. I have hot glue all over my strip. And now you will need two hands, or your hands and somebody else's, to kind of put this in place. It is a little weird, so take your time because you're attaching this strip to a very thin piece of cardboard. So the first few times I did this, it did not go that easily, so make sure you have tried it a couple times. Don't just give up the first time because it didn't go so great. Okay, so now I'm going to hold this in place for a little while this hot glue dries so that the strip doesn't pop off. But I will show you the next steps here. I'm going to move this out of the way because I think I'm done with my hot glue. We'll set this to the side because I might need it again. So here's where your eraser and your push pin come into play. You'll want to have an eraser to kind of poke this through. When you poke your pen through your cog, the eraser will catch your push pin so you're not damaging what's underneath your work area. So I'm going to hope that this is dry. It looks like it's drying pretty well. You are going to use this push pin. You can push it right in the middle if you want to. You don't have to. You can put your holes wherever you want on here, and you can do more than one hole. So for this one I have two on there. You just want to make sure that they're spaced out enough so that when you use one hole it doesn't rip. So I'm going to do one in the middle just because we can, and push it through, and you'll know it's all the way through if you can pick it up and have your eraser attached to it. So you know you're all the way through, and now I'm going to just kind of yoink my eraser off. And you can wiggle this pin to try to make your hole a little bigger, but one thing that I found works best is using the pin that you plan on drawing with and pushing that in there, because this is the point that will need to go through that hole. So you need to make sure it's at least as large as your pen. So there. And you'll need to make sure that the hole is big enough so your pen can go through and touch the paper. Because we have a little bit of lip on here, you might need to make that hole kind of big so that your pen can go through. But if you mess up, all you have to do is start over and make another one, so it's not a big deal because we've gone through this project pretty seamlessly so far. Now I'm going to make another hole somewhere else. If you've ever seen a Spirograph toy, the cogs have a lot of little holes and stuff in them, so you can make them so that they're together, because like I said, you don't want to rip them. You don't want using this to rip it apart. So I'm gonna push my pen through there and slowly, because I don't want to tear this thing up. There we go. And now we have a cog. So you can do these steps over again and make cogs in different sizes and in different shapes and then test them out. But I am excited because now I have a whole bunch of cogs. Show you my little collection. And I'm going to use my paper, which I have right over here, and test out my tool. So I've already made a couple. This one is, I think, 8 inches in diameter. This one is 6 inches in diameter. And then this one is, I think, 4. So I have a couple different sizes, and those different sizes will get you different size designs. So if you want to make sure or try and make a couple of these sizes, that would be pretty cool. But I'm going to use my largest one since that's the one I just made and I'm most interested in seeing. And you can use a ballpoint pen or a really sharpened pencil to get into those holes to create your design. So it's up to you, but crayons don't work, and markers that have a broad tip like this probably won't work that well. So I would suggest pencils and pens. So to use this, you're going to place your big cardboard piece down on top of your paper. Make sure it's centered in the place that you want. Slide this off to the side. And then you're with one hand, set your cog along the outer edge, and then put your pen into one of those holes, either one. And then push your pen around the edge of this, and you're going to get a really interesting design. And it's going to feel strange at first, but keep going because you're going to come up with a really cool design no matter how you do this. And it does take some practice using this because I've done this a couple times and all of my shapes look a little crazy, but it's fun to do. So alrighty, so that is how you use it, and this is the design that mine came up with. So I have a couple other ones, and of course I don't know where they are. They were just here. Some of my other cogs to create some other designs. So I got a flower design from one of them, and then another bigger design, and then a wider design. And then I'll show you how this rectangle one works. So you're going to get some interesting designs no matter what shapes you use. So I would definitely, but this one is I'm not going to keep you too long. Get the idea. It's a really so something like that. And make the cogs, make a bunch of outer wheels that you can use, and really try to use this tool so that you can create some really fun artwork. So I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed showing you how to make it. Or cold porcelain dragons with Miss Van. And make sure you join us on Thursday for more videos, and on Saturday to get an inside look at the artists who teach you on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So thank you so much for staying with me. Hopefully you get something out of this. Make of your designs and your